Hey guys, I'm Trickey, Colonist player from the UK. I was fortunate enough to win the Colonist Championship this year, 2025. I was actually pretty frustrated being first place here on this board. Look at the board really favoured second, third, and even fourth, and first was really not a placement I wanted at all. And there's a few things I tend to assess. So obviously this is a edge desert board. It tends to mean you should be able to get a 3 hex. It's not always guaranteed if you're first. And also means there should be potentially some space to expand within the board. And then on the flip side, it's very low wheat board and a quite low brick board as well. And so I would tend to want to be a development card player. I think particularly on this board with the 4s being duplicated on the wheat resource. I think that being a dev card player that has lots of ore and can do powerful wheat monopolies, that would be my preferred way and the route that I see to winning this board. The 3 picks that I was really looking at were this 639. I think the 639 fundamentally gets you a good touch of wheat, which I might not be guaranteed on the way back. I should be able to go with 10-9 here. Someone could go 10-9-5, but likely to be that 659 goes. So I'd have 10-9, 639. That would give me a game, balanced resources, a bit over reliant on 9s. I could do something with that. And the second spot I considered was this 834. I think realistically having double wheat on this board and should give lots of opportunities to trade, and then having this cornered off ore that is unlikely to get blocked at the same consistency as the 9, which is going to be shared by people, and this 6 and makes a nice expansion and a nice port. And then the final spot I was looking at was the 695. Frustrating because you don't start with wheat, but there's a few ways to get wheat on the way back. I think if this 411-9 goes, the 4-5 might be open. You could potentially get this 6-3-11 to 411 could still be open. So you've got some nice expansion spots between the sort of 4-5, 10-5, 10-9. And ultimately, I did settle on the 6-9-5, that there'll be some settlements I can take on this side of the board. Red taking the 8-3-4, which I completely agree with in second, pointing up towards the wood port, getting that double wheat and obviously that isolated ore. And then you've got Grain taking 8-10-5, which I can understand from her position. She decided she wanted to play, I believe, the road game and had confidence that the 4-9-11 would be available on the way back. And as it played out, you'll see that 4-9-11 was available on the way back. Gives some nice expansions, gives a sensible, decent. I got this 6-9-3, 8-3-4. But the sheep port obviously also does give a nice expansion 6-2, which is good resources. So I don't hate it either, and potentially gives you a shot at the 10-9-2, although I think you'd be struggling to get there before Grain does. And then red on the way back here takes a 6-12-11. Now, as the board started to place out, I potentially thought that red was going to go 6-11-3 here, thinking that'll get me to the wood port a bit faster, and then I can use my wood to create sheep instead of kind of taking the pure 12 sheep production to start. That was almost something I was quite happy to bait in my position. I think I could have made quite a big fuss about getting plowed on 10-9, realistically gone 6-3-11, 6-12, still gone 10-5-4-5 this area, still had a 3-1 port. By going 6-12-11, it actually opened up for me what I think was an interesting spot, but I went with a 6-11-3. Now, you'll probably notice I could have gone 11-10-3 and sort of plowed Grain here. Started off quite aggressive with my position and looked to sort of forge a road path. I think, in my opinion, it would have been a massive distraction. My thinking in this position is I've got to get to the 4-5 as soon as possible. By not taking wheat to start, I desperately need to get myself to this 4-5. I think going here, okay, more ore, great, more wood, okay, fine, touch of sheep. Really things that are just not relevant to my position. And in my head, one of the benefits of doubling this 6 up is I'm going to need the kind of key resources. 2 rolls of the 6 can ultimately be either a wheat or a brick for me. I think the last thing to note as well, which is interesting, is I pointed my road to the left. I feel like I've got the space to play a road game. And this one road may help me in the future to have an additional road length when it comes to taking the longest road. You'll see at the end of the game that actually this road was, in fact, something quite important to help get me over the line. My general thinking for my position here is I'm very, very conscious of the dev players. As I say, I think they'll be strong on this board. So that's red and black primarily. I feel like my position will start slow. So I should start under the radar to begin with, because I'm going to have to crawl to this 4-5. And I've just got to try and keep these players red and black balanced until I can get there. And my position can scale very quickly. I'll start to get cities and I'll start to maybe get some dev flexibility and have exceptionally high production. But I've got to stay in the game early while I'm beginning things slowly. If I just play it out for a bit, you'll notice that there was a very early 11, gave me one of the rare bricks that I needed, which was super useful. And here I'm very close to the settlement, trying to get myself 1 extra wood on my turn. And if you come to my next turn, red's managed to get himself city and the 8 started rolling. We find ourselves in this board position. So I did a sheep ore trade with black in order to get the wood for the settlement. So as you'll see, I've limped my way to this position. At this point, I don't think I've been robbed once. I don't think I'd really been blocked once. Red has already got this city and has become the early strong player. So as you'll see, red is already able to get 2 devs down. And I think this is the point where we're like, okay, red's really scary. If red gets army pacing, this game can get away from us very quickly. So a big part of what we're focused on as a board is how do we strengthen black, ideally get them into the dev game. But yeah, here black flips the first knight, and I think it was key. We say, right, you've got to buy a dev. Manages to buy a dev, great. We can keep things moving. To really get my setup complete, I wanted to get this 3-1 port 10 brick spot and this 10-9 spot. And I think the fastest route to getting me there was doubling up this 11 brick. If we go to red's turn here, therefore doesn't use a knight before the roll, but does have monopoly and a yop, pointing out very highly and clearly to the board that red is a major problem. Now, I think this is probably the first error of the game. So red here actually plays a city on 6, 12, 11. The sheep had been rolling relatively well for red. And I think in the back of their head, I think they just thought the sheep will naturally roll, even though it is the 12, because it kind of had been going so far and they were able to dev. They don't have a port yet, but hey, if all your OWS is rolling, you don't really need a port. I think they absolutely needed to use the year of plenty, get 2 sheep and double pop here. I think it provides them significantly more flexibility, a lot more control to move the robber, more likely to keep army pacing, which they absolutely needed to from black. And ultimately this city here, doubling the 11 when they're on the 3 and the 4, okay, useful, more wheat. Doubling the 6, quite useful to keep pacing with, the 6 rolling for the strength it has on me. Doubling the 12, obviously useful if it rolls, but 12s don't come around that often. I think the dev would have been much more impactful. This was possibly one of the early errors that some of the other players did in the board. But again, these are tough decisions, and ultimately, if you city and then you can get the dev card pacing still and get army, then you're in a really strong position. But I think the extra devs would have been useful. What that does do for us is it gives us a window in order to get black army. And the other thing to note about red's position here, it became very adamant and quickly clear to the board and to myself that they did have a monopoly. I think a few times I'd said, feels like red has a monopoly. They were doing some trades that really looked like quite, obvious dirty monopoly trades, and what red wasn't denying, they had a monopoly. So I was really making the point to the board, red has a monopoly, let's keep our cards down, let's be conscious of it. He's strong enough as it is, and there's a monopoly as well. This game could really get away from us fast. My objectives here are to get on the 3-1 port, get on the brick port, and so I road settle the brick port, and then I use one road for the 3-1 and sit there. In my opinion, the 3-1 is more impactful and more likely to get me the other settlement faster. The brick port's really not massively useful on this board, whereas the 3-1 versus 1 extra sheep on a 9 gives me a lot more flexibility to get this second settlement down. So you'll see from my next turn, fortunately for me, I wasn't punished with that, but that was definitely a small error. Again, it had been a long day. Always go the 3-1 here. As we go through, again, red's really being slowed down at this point. Grain's got a lot of cards, has herself a really big hand that she can use here, gets second city down, and has a pretty well set up, pretty complete road game. She's not got ports at this point, but definitely could be a challenge. So look, you'll see here the perfect reason why I made a mistake last turn. If I had the 3-1 port here, I can get myself a settlement. I could still do the settlement, but it cost me an extra wood. But fortunately, again, wasn't punished because I was able to get a wood for sheep trade with Grain. Grain was really struggling from the fact that 10's massively underperformed in this game, and so the wood trades were really important. When I visioned what my position looks like, getting to this point, being too far behind the dev players was what I was hoping for. And, at this stage, I feel like I'm in an exceptionally strong position. I've got massive flexibility in production. I've still got, a 6-9-5 city to put down, which is going to be huge for my game. Even the 4-5, 10-9 cities are really good. I can dev, I've got the brick port if 10 start rolling, 9s, 6s, 5s, 11s, 4s, 3s. I'm on so many numbers. So felt very good in this position, but cognizant again with this board and the power of the monopolies that things could all go very wrong. Again, we've managed to get black army, so red is behind on pacing. I think we were so far back in the replay when red had 4 points and 2 devs when they decided to build this city. So at this point, I'm continuing to just try to use my cards each turn, keep my hand moving, and continue to build up my position. Here, 7 wood, 3 all. For me, it's like just get this 6-9-5 city down. Such a high production spot, massively useful to get. Taking me to 7 points, keeping me moving forward. Starting to get some really impactful rolls. Grain takes road, partly because they're cautious I could sprint to the finish and win. Sheep was, slightly threatening to double play. Again, also Grain needs that for her win condition. As we come to Sheep's turn here, I think this is a really critical turn. What you'll see is the first use of a monopoly. So Sheep sort of revealed or made it clear they had a monopoly. Obviously, you can see from my position, I don't have any wheat in my hand. And if I just go to red's position, red's got 4 wheat, has rolled quite a lot. And I think even Grain has a couple of wheat. The wheat monopoly has little impact on me. In the end, they do monopoly the wheat. Massively impacts red's hand and obviously impacts Grain's hand particularly as well. You look, if they'd actually monopolied ore here, I had 4 ore in hand, 5 ore in hand from red, and obviously none from Grain, but you would have got 9 ore. And that would have given the opportunity to put this road down. You could double city. Suddenly, Sheep has army, is on 7 points. has hugely increased their production, and has an open settle here, an open settle there, and an open settle here. Suddenly we'd be going, grain, you need to extend road. Red, we need to feed your army. The whole board would be quite heavily panicked. Fortunate for me, we were able to see a wheat monopoly here and not an ore monopoly, so I didn't lose a single card. It didn't quite strengthen sheep's position as much as the ore monopoly would have. In this position, probably a small mistake in my game. Here I can do one of two things. I can pop twice because I can put 6 ore down for 2 sheep and the 3 wood for a wheat. I can pop twice and get 2 development cards. Again, looking for control with knights or getting the VPs that, are the biggest threat to me losing this game quickly. If grain suddenly has a VP or 2, they could quickly scale and settle and win the game. If I get them, obviously it scales my position. My thinking here at the time, and I do think it was wrong, the reason being is I was working concept around what I call swing rolls late in the game. And my opinion was that if 10s are rolling, I probably win. 5s as it was, I probably win. 9s, 6s are rolling, I win the game. 11s are rolling, I think I win the game. Biggest problem, the 4. If the 4's rolling a lot, particularly with 9s, it would have been really strong for grain to get cities. Ultimately, it meant I'd have as much position to do anything with those grains as anyone else, whereas by only getting 1, not 2, I felt like it would hold me back. I think the double pop's probably better, but you guys can decide what you think. So Disobey now plays the monopoly they've been waiting for a long time. Again, I've been using my cards a lot so that it has less of an impact on me. And if I go to Disobey's position, do a monopoly for wheat, they actually get 2 from myself. From black, you're getting 5, and from grain, you're getting 4. In some ways, this is a fine monopoly. I think too little, too late. They've let their position kind of, unfortunately, dissolve. Again, without a port, they're going to need to trade their cards here in order to be able to do anything impactful. Otherwise, it's just going to be having a port 4 for 1. 4 for 1 twice for 2 sheep. Get 2 pops, get a couple of knights. So some useful devs, but again, a bit late at this stage. In my perspective, the monopolies are out. The Yops are now gone. The road builders are both gone. So the dev deck is just full of knights and VPs. Thinking about what can impact me and stop me winning. For me, it's people getting those VPs quickly. It's maybe sheep with a double play window. Probably grain is the biggest threat, given that she's got settle spots. 9s and 4s are quick cities. With 1 pop, a settle, a city, you could see her getting her last 3 points quite quickly. What I wanted to do here, get into the dev deck. But firstly, if I pop once and I get a VP, then I can win the game because I can port the sheep or I can port the wood down for another wheat and then drop a city, VP city, 10 points, happy days. Counted out roads. I don't have enough, I don't believe, to take road here. I could have made 3 roads. 3 roads takes me, around the coast, takes me to 7, but I'd still be 1 away. So there's not much benefit to doing that. I'd just rally the troops to extend the road. Whereas if I go into the dev deck here again, if I can find any of these VPs, it's going to be massively useful for de-risking the chance that I lose this game. I'm in a really strong position. My production is huge. Got so much flexibility. Go into the dev deck, get a knight, get another knight. Again, I'm fine with knights. It means that I can keep moving it on whoever is looking the strongest, and then ultimately find one of the VPs, which I think is great. Gives me so many options to get my last point, because now I've got 3 cities down. I could just take the last point with 1 city would be an option to me now that I've got the VP. And obviously, again, it stops other people from finding them. Red moves the knight here, puts it on the 5, and I'm fortunate 7 out. I think particularly if I remember, I think grain was set for a really strong, impactful turn here. City in hand, could have easily rolled a 10, quite close to winning. So this 7 out, again, quite fortunate on my side. Roll another 5. And then when it comes to my turn here, I actually move the knight onto the 4 wheat here. Why? So I think the turn before I moved it to the 8 ore, again, the 8 for me is the big swing roll. So I wanted to shut it down because if the roll that could make me lose the game, to say I'm going for road, I think people have realised the strength of my position, how close I am to winning. So I was normally putting it on the 8. Here, I really wanted to steal from grain. I knew grain had 2 brick in hand. So I had a 50-50 chance at brick, gave me some winning rolls if I could steal a brick, because I could sneak road. If I'm blocking grain, I think shutting this 4 wheat down, again, I was still talking to the fact that maybe red could come back, and if they found VPs and they take army, they could be a problem. Managed to steal the brick and then also an 11 rolls. That does allow me to actually get what is the 11-point win. Take road around the coast. And as I mentioned at the start of the game, turns out this road that I placed here left in order to, show signs of peace and that I wasn't contesting for the settlements here, in the end is actually the 1 extra road I needed, going around the coast and across in order to get me to 9 roads and give me the road for the win. Really happy ultimately with how that played out. Yes, there were definitely things others could done differently in the game. The way the board played out showed the strength of the dev players, the strength of monopolies. It did ultimately have the slow start I was looking for that meant that I could stay a bit under the radar in the beginning part of the game, going into the late phase of the game as soon as the monopolies were both out the board and out. But I think everyone had done really well to get there, played well and represented themselves well in the final. I hope you found the analysis or the thoughts on the game, interesting or insightful. Catch you guys later.